Hello, it's Jim Brown again with the illustrations for Chapter 5 of Among the Multihulls, 8 minutes. By early 1960, baby Stephen was just starting to kick and wriggle, and it was time for me to go back to Mexico to try to retrieve our boat. I was joined by my boyhood friend Russell Miller, who had just returned from a trip hitching and working his way around the world. So we flew to La Paz, loaded our stuff up, and took the dump truck back down to Cape San Lucas, now the great resort of Cabo. We fixed something to eat on the beach and got all of our stuff out of the cannery. There seemed to be an awful lot of it. It was all there, but it was quite a project for us to get it organized and loaded back into the boat. Miller and I were able to carry the small pieces back down to the beach, and eventually, with the help of the Mexicans, we got the main hull down there too. It needed a good scrub, so we got after it with water and sand. And I remember thinking at the time that I don't know what we would have done without a take-apart beachable boat that you could carry around. Russ is testing the masthead light, which is made out of an inverted pickle jar and powered by a dry cell. Remember, the boat was built and outfitted for about $2,000 in materials. This is one of my few surviving slides from this period, most of them faded, so we're going to have to do with my old 16mm black and white movie film. Just before we left San Francisco, someone gave me an old wind-up 16mm camera. A lot of fun. We had to load up, do a few sail repairs, and by the time we were ready to launch, the boat was pretty heavy, so we dug a trench by hand, and the locals helped us shove her in. Afloat again. Nothing like a beachable, seagoing boat. And we drifted out in light airs past the great Cape of San Lucas. Outward bound for Manzanillo, about 500 miles to the south, a Mexican shipping port from which we hoped to ship the boat back to California. Russell Miller was new to sailing, but it didn't take him long. Here he is cooking up a pot of stew on our little sea-swing stove. We had light airs the first day and night, which was a good thing because we were kind of tuckered. But the next day the breeze came up and the boat began to boogie along. We were making tracks for the Mexican mainland. But that night we had a bright moon in a shallow fog and we couldn't see a thing. And at one point we heard a gentle surf on either side, so I went a little closer and dropped the anchor. And in the morning, this is where we were. We were anchored in this beautiful cove on what our chart told us must be one of the Tres Marias Islands, and there was nobody around. We didn't have a dinghy, so we swam ashore here with our stuff, our cameras and shoes, in plastic bags, and climbed up to check the place out. When we scrambled up the escarpment a little ways, we could see that we had sailed in past these rocks on either hand and somehow found our way into this anchorage. It was just a remarkable piece of luck, and the place was very beautiful. And the cove was so well protected that we beached the boat here. We had to do a repair to the rudder anyway, so we just sailed our Juana ashore. This time, for the fun of it, we were not trying to escape a hurricane. The swell surged in around the points, but by the time they got into the cove, they were completely dissipated, giving us a beautiful protected beaching spot. I wished so much that Joanna had been here to see this place. So we aired out everything, got it in the sun, and went to work on the rudder. We had broken the lower gudgeon, which I had made by hand, and we literally lashed it back onto the stern of the boat. And this lashing held us for the rest of the 500-mile trip. Miller spotted an iguana, so he grabbed it by the tail. We wanted some fresh meat. We'd been eating out of cans. All we got was the tail. But we did find abalone on the rocks. Plenty of them. So we spent a couple of days here really enjoying our Robinson Crusoe scene, but eventually it was time to head on south. Days later in Manzanillo, we learned that the Tres Marias Islands were being developed as a maximum security prison for the nation of Mexico. We had stopped in forbidden territory and gotten away with it. Now we had more good luck. In Manzanillo, we were able to hitch a ride for ourselves and our boat aboard a big tuna clipper all the way back to San Diego. It was great good fortune. We spent 5 days in this ship with a great Portuguese crew, and we had a chance to watch these guys fish when we ran into a school. They yanked them in 40 pounds at a time. It was incredible to watch. Well, as the book explains, we left the boat briefly in San Diego, went back to San Francisco. I came down with a car and with Joanna and the baby, and we took the boat all apart again, undo the rigging, let the halyards down, drop the mast. Joanna took this picture. She was afraid I was going to drop the mast on her head, so she turned the camera off. It was wonderful to have a seagoing boat that was small and light enough that you could manhandle around. Even when she was hard aground, I could push her off and then pull her around and get her onto a trailer and haul her out and proceed up the highway at 50 knots dead to windward back home. Yes, she was loaded on her side to make her narrow enough for the highway. Well, we never quite got over that little boat. Of course, my phantom visions still have her sliding down over the ocean waves on her way to Mexico. She's preserved here on our one roll of color film. She was a great little boat designed by Arthur Piver in 1957. And our little Juana was just the first of a great many trimarans to come in the 1960s. And it's, of course, the trimaran configuration that now dominates the ocean racing scene. And here's to you, Russ Miller. I'm so glad that 50 years later we're still in touch. Pretty good, huh? But hey, Russ, how did 50 years just get away from us like that, huh? I don't know. I suppose we can just blame it on our youth. Well, there's more to Chapter 5 in the book, but the illustrations for that are posted on our website under the title The Multihull Pioneers. So I'll hope to see you all again for the illustrations here for Chapter 6. Bye-bye.